Welcome to a very special video of how it works with Holger. Ever since starting this video series last year, I have gotten a couple of emails, or quite a couple of emails, how my process works, how I get the ideas, what technology I use, what software, what hardware. So guess what? This is the video I'm going to tell you how I create these videos. So the content of this video is pretty simple. First, I'm going to talk about my process, then the hardware I use, and then finally the software. The most important thing, of course, is an idea. I have to get my ideas from somewhere, and quite sometimes I get the suggestions from the community, or I look at a new feature in a new version of Delphi or something that is, I think, rather new for the community. For example, the T-datetime stuff I did recently. I talked to quite a few developers and they were like, oh, I know about dates in Delphi, but they don't know about the new record helper class in order to use T-datetime much more efficiently. And then, of course, I work with Delphi every day. Yeah, every day, even on the weekends, I can't help myself. That leads to, sooner or later, me getting an idea for something that I could do a video about. And that is, I would think, the most common source of my ideas, because I see things that might be useful for other people as well. And then there's literally the split between, oh, this might become a tutorial, this might become a course, this might be something for the next Code Rage conference. And of course, if it's pretty short like this, it is a good idea for how it works with Holger. And of course, common regular tasks that I think every Delphi developer should be aware of are also always a good suggestion for an idea. I've also gotten quite a few ideas from the community where I think it is over the scope of these. So whenever you make a suggestion, I read it, I process it, and it's not going to fall under the table. I'm definitely going to deal with it, but it might not be how it works with Holger. It might be on a conference or in a training course, for example. Creating an example is the first step for me. I know other people work differently. They start reading literature about a certain topic, and they don't have the practical approach. They have more of an academic approach. I prefer to learn by doing, to build an example first. And then if I hit a roadblock, then I start looking at literature, what options I have. And that is really the fun part of the whole process. And while you work on an example, you find more and more and more things that might be valuable. So the whole idea grows while building the example. And the most important thing when working on these examples is I use version control. I can't emphasize this enough. And in the next couple of weeks, I'm going to publish a series of new videos, and as soon as I start working on a new example, it is being put into version control. And the reason is, when I have the first step for the first video that I'm going to do, I'm going to make it a branch or a release tag or some sort that I can go back and forth to that point. So if I go on building more onto that example, I have all the different steps for all the different videos in these versioned source codes. And you might think, like, you're just a single developer, why do you do that? Well, it helps me to keep track of the development process. And also, if you have questions afterwards and you ask me about video number 2, and I'm already producing video number 4, I can easily go back and look what the source code looked like in that particular video. So even for a simple task, one might say, not a big software project, I use versioning for these. At that point, when the example is ready, I'm showing the example to other people from the community. That means other MVPs that I talk to regularly, people from TMS that I talk to on a regular basis, and then I get feedback and options. And then I rework everything with the feedback in mind, and that's when the example is done. And the next steps are to create the slides in Microsoft PowerPoint, and then I record with TechSmith Camtasia, and then the editing and publication are the final steps. So how long does this process really take? Well, anything from hours to days. And this video, for example, took me a couple of hours because it is just building the slides. There is no example I can record right away. But the editing and the publication are still part of the process. So it still takes a significant amount of time. It's not minutes, it's always hours. So I would say how it works with Holger, that is usually around 10 minutes, takes anywhere from 2 to 5 hours. That's just a general mark for you to have. Because I gotta be honest here, I've also people approaching me and saying like, oh, I think I will do the same thing for our internal training process at our company. And people don't realize how much time consuming this process is, especially if you start it. When I started doing these videos, and other MVPs will definitely support me saying that, a video for a conference that is like 45 minutes long, sometimes, especially in the beginning when you're not used to talking to your computer like I do right now, I'm sitting in a room by myself talking to a camera, it takes getting used to, especially for my generation. The younger generation, they do TikTok and Instagram. So long story short, a 45-minute video, the first one I did, took me about a week. And that is not even exaggerated. So some ideas also work out and some don't. So you might be stuck in an example and then you realize this example is not as good as you thought it would be. Or when it's for how it works with Holger, it starts out to get too complex. So I have to do things differently, and guess what? You start again from scratch. So that is why this process is very undetermined how long it takes. I can't say, hey, this is going to take me 2 hours, this is going to take me 5 hours. Sometimes you learn while doing that it takes longer than expected, and some videos just fly by. The hardware I use is for the microphone right here. On my left is a Blue Yeti Pro, and I can only say the Blue Yeti is fine as well. I just used the Pro because it was even better than the Blue Yeti. The camera technology I use is a Logitech C922X Pro Stream, and as a computer, and this might come as a big surprise because these are all Delphi videos, I use an Apple MacBook M1 Pro when I started this series, and in the meantime I've upgraded to the Apple Mac Studio Ultra. So all of this is actually being recorded on a Apple Mac system and not on a Windows system. Software, TechSmith Camtasia is the recording software I use. I use Parallels to virtualize Windows on an ARM system. And of course, the operating system is Windows 11 ARM. And all these images on my slides, they're from FreePic. They're not my own photos. And one thing I forgot here, the reason that my voice is never disturbed by background noise, or for example here in Florida, the AC system kicks in now and then. I use Crisp, starting with a KRISP, which uses artificial intelligence to extract your voice and take away all the different background noises that might occur. And with that, I'm already at the end of this presentation. I think you now have a pretty good idea how these videos are being created. And as always, the most important thing is you, my audience, to supply me with suggestions. Don't hesitate to email me. It's holger@flixengineering.com. See you soon. And that means I have to start the whole process that I just explained all over again to put out another great video for you.